To move into the history books as the NFL's all-time winner. And San Diego has been moving on up since another poor start. We've got all the moves next on NFL Game Day. Hello once again, everybody. I'm Chris Berman. Welcome to NFL Game Day for Week 11. We're taking a brief time out from running in the New York Marathon. We need a water break, and sprinting along with us, as always, Tom Jackson, Mort, just across the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, as the venerable Dolphins head coach goes for career win number 325 at Philadelphia, which would break his tie, of course, if he wins it, with number one all-time tie with the Papa Bear, George Halas. But since it is Bernie Kosar week, isn't it ironic that these two teams playing today, the Eagles and the Dolphins, were also players in the Bernie sweepstakes? Let's head to the vet and get the word from Andrea Kramer. Andrea?
Yes, Chris. The Eagles made the token call to Bernie Kosar's father, but it was too late. The Dolphins, however, did really want Bernie in Miami. In fact, they allegedly offered him more money than Dallas did. And when Miami brought in Steve DeBerg for a workout, they told him, we're not going to sign you until the Kosar situation is resolved. They didn't get Kosar. They did get Steve DeBerg. They also got Tom Thayer, who will be their right guard of the future. Another Bear castoff is in this game today as well. The Eagles claimed William Perry and immediately have installed him as their starting right defensive tackle. They need him to plug up holes in the middle for a very porous run defense ranked 28th in the NFL. This defense is desperate for a win, but also for emotion.
You know, I don't think we really fought like we should have last week. You know, it looks like everybody was kind of standing around waiting for somebody else to make a play. And, you know, that's just been the talk the whole week. It's just technique and, you know, fighting. You know, you got to fight. You got to win your individual battles.
The individual battle being waged today is Shula's final quest for the all-time coaching mark. It's been a distraction for this team, but Shula refuses to use the win one for the coach as a motivation.
You can't be selfish about this thing. And, you know, you wouldn't want a player to be thinking at this point, win one for me or my statistics or anything like that. And the players understand, you know, what's going on, and we want to win for the football team, and that's what the theme is.
Final note, Chris, the quintessential Shula move, last week he decided that today they would introduce the offense so that former Eagles Keith Byers, Keith Jackson, and Ron Heller would have an inspirational homecoming.
All right, Andrea, thank you very much for that late word. Just as Shula was shot down in his attempt for the record last week by his nemesis, the New York Jets, today he sees part of that albatross in the person of Eagles quarterback Ken O'Brien, wearing green and white. Some of O'Brien's best games were for the Jets against Miami, even as recently as last season.
This is the NBC Television Network.
This is NFL Live for Week 11. Here's Jim Lampley and Mike Ditka.
Welcome back. A full day of NFL action ahead. It would be impossible to start the day without looking back at yesterday's college epic, Mike. Florida State and Notre Dame, all the trappings in a game that had everything.
Well, it reminded me of Aliquippa and Ambridge in 1957, one of the great games of the century. It was a great game for college football. Notre Dame, Florida State, I think they did both such great justice to the university. I think the coaches and the players handled themselves so well. It was one of the best college football games I've ever seen.
Mike, going back to his senior year in high school, to put it all in perspective for us, next week he'll tell us about the prom, right? We begin our NFL coverage in Philadelphia, where the Eagles host the Dolphins. It's a homecoming for several Miami players, notably Keith Jackson and Keith Byers, among others who spent the past several years in Philly. Now it's payback time. With a report, let's go to OJ at Veterans Stadium. Juice.
Well, Jim, there is an added sense of anticipation with the return of these former Eagles. The fans have already expressed their feelings when Keith Byers and Jackson took the field. They were both pro and con, pretty vocal. And talking to those guys, they expected a very lively confrontation because, as you know, you want to play harder against your friends than your enemies because you got to live with these guys in the offseason. I caught up with Mike Golic, and he pretty much summed up the attitude of these returning Eagles.
Well, it was definitely weird coming back here and being in a different locker room. That was very weird. And I think I'll have maybe a little bit of an advantage. I'm not big or strong. My game is kind of knowing the line calls. And Dave Alexander, their center, is one of my best friends. The 6 years I've been here, he knows I know the calls. So he's either going to try and get some dummy calls or change the calls, but I'm going to figure it out sooner or later.
Golic might have an advantage on the other side of the ball. Byers told me he don't think they have an advantage. We got to run our routes and find the holes. He expected to be a physical game, so look for a little extra pushing and shoving. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a fight among some of these returning Eagles. Now let's go up top to the guys who are going to be calling this game, my former Olympic running partner, Tom Hammond, and a guy who avoided all physical competitions, Chris Collinsworth.
You're right. I'm glad to see you escape the crowd in South Bend just because you have lost a step or two or three. Chris, we don't have the marquee quarterbacks today. Dan Marino, Randall, Cunningham are injured, but we do have the marquee coach.
Yeah, Don Shula. And to put this thing in perspective, he now has more regular season wins than 17 other teams in the National Football League. But after talking with him last night, you get the feeling that win number 325 is going to be more of a relief than anything else.
Well, the Eagles have had a huge problem stopping the run this season, but this week they think they have a huge solution to the problem.
Indeed they do. William the Refrigerator Perry is in town, and he looks pretty good in green. The Eagles have been ranked dead last in the National Football League against the run, and they're hoping the Fridge, more than anything else, can just take up a little space in the middle.
That he can do, take up space. In fact, I think your partner, Jim, can verify that.
Indeed, he can, Tom. The Fridge, the same refrigerator who made football fun for an entire nation back in 1985. Remember his first NFL touchdown? It came against the Packers on a Monday night after Mike Ditka decided to put him in the backfield. Then 2 weeks later, the Fridge would catch his first NFL touchdown pass as the Bears rolled to a 15-1 regular season record. And Fridge culminated the season with a touchdown in Super Bowl 20.
Perry. Another Super Bowl record, the first refrigerator to score.
Former New York Jet Ken O'Brien knows all about playing against the Dolphins. Now he's the starting quarterback for the Eagles as Philly looks to snap its 4-game losing streak. His opposite number for the Dolphins, Scott Mitchell. Numbers in just 3.5 games make him the highest-rated passer in the AFC. It wasn't supposed to be this way. Philly and Miami should have meant two of the league's biggest stars, Randall Cunningham and Dan Marino. But neither of them will see action anytime soon. For more on that, here's OJ in Philly. Juice.
Hey, Jim, there are few quarterback matchups in the league more interesting than Cunningham versus Marino. Unfortunately, Cunningham broke a bone in his leg, and Marino suffered a ruptured Achilles tendon. It's been a difficult period for both of them, the frustration of watching their teams trying to win without them.
First of all, the thought was to cry and just, let the frustration out.
And Cunningham is hurt. He is limping badly off the field.
The fans in New York, in the Jet Stadium were like, yeah, get out of here, you bum. And I was saying, this is really a rude sport. I said, it's crazy. And I said, it's dangerous. And I said, it's not worth it. I said, getting injured like this, it's not worth it. And I knew my leg was broken. I was just waiting for it to flop. So I said, yeah, I think I'm going to retire.
I was trying to read the play. I dropped back, took 7 steps. And when I planted on my 7th step, when I was finishing my drop back, I felt like I got kicked or shot with a gun or something in the back, and kind of stepped up and threw it to the back underneath. Turned around to look. If I got kicked, there was no one back there. So right then I knew there was something wrong.
I said, no, not Dan. Not me, then Dan, Montana, and then there's all these other quarterbacks who are getting benched and stuff. It's a dangerous game, man. So I went back out, sat in the tunnel, and then the fans changed. They were like, hey, Randall, hurry back, And I was like, it's kind of crazy. But it's so ironic that they were saying that, because then Eric Allen, our cornerback Pro Bowl, picked off a pass, was running down the sideline. They scored a touchdown. And I pointed to him, and then he saw me. He's like, hey, there's my boy. He brought the football over, and he said, we're going to win this one. We're going to get this one for you. And right there, tears came to my eyes, but I knew I was on television, so I didn't want to start crying, big baby. And the ironic thing was that something drew me out there. The fans changed their minds, how they felt about me. And it was like I could sense it changing. And I said, I'm not leaving football. My friends are too important to me.
Has this injury changed your perspective on the game at all?
I think it has, from the standpoint that I appreciate somewhat what Scott was going through when he was, on the sideline when I was playing, standing there watching. I can appreciate or maybe, at times when you were playing, you took for granted the fact that you're playing and how much fun you have and how enjoyable it is to do something that was a dream of yours when you're a kid. So now you're standing back watching it and you can't do it, and it's tough to take. So I appreciate it a little more, I think.
I'm going to sit in a chair and throw the football, so I continue throwing the football in case we make it into the playoffs. My arm will still be where it is now. It's in shape and it's ready to go.
I will be back next year, there's no doubt, and it's something that is going to be 100%. I'll be able to recover 100% from it. The doctor said there's going to be no problem, so I'm looking forward to it. Just got to be patient.
If there is a silver lining in this for both of these players is I think when they come back, and I have no doubt that they will come back, that they both will appreciate the game a lot more. Most guys don't recognize how much they miss the game and love the game until they're out of the game for good. For Miami, it hasn't been that difficult. Scott Mitchell has filled in, and he's done a real capable job. As far as Philly is concerned, Jim, they've hurting. I mean, they haven't won a game since Cunningham has gone down.
Indeed, Juice. Both Bubby Brister and Ken O'Brien have been miserable. What about Mitchell, Mike? He slipped a little bit last week.
Yeah, but I think he'll bounce back, Jim. I think the big problem with Miami right now really is their defense. I think Coach Shula really wants their defense to step up. If they're going to go on and be a playoff team, their defense has got to play a lot better than they did last week against the Jets.
As they go for Shula's record 325th today. And up next, Will McDonough joins us when we talk about the wild week in Cleveland and Dallas for Bernie Kosar. We're back with that in just a moment.